ever found yourself on a hiking or backpacking trip that didn't quite live up to your expectations?
I got very little sleep last night.
Do you want to ensure that you're having the absolute best time while you're hiking and exploring the great outdoors? The primary goal of hiking and backpacking is to have fun and enjoy nature. But that joy can quickly fade if you're unintentionally making these common hiking gear mistakes. So stick with me, and we'll uncover some of the most common hiking gear mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1, buying the wrong shoe or boot size. Boots, shoes, Crocs, sandals, loafers, Speedos. Now, it's easy to assume that the shoe size you wear in your normal everyday life will be just fine for your hiking adventures, but that is just simply not the case. In fact, it's one of the most common missteps made. See what I did there? So how do you avoid this pitfall? It's a good idea to go around a half size up from your regular shoe size. Why, might you ask? Well, you'll want at least a thumb's width from your longest toe to the very front of your shoe. Doing this is critical because if your shoes are too small, when you go downhill, your toes will smash against the front of your shoes over and over again. This not only causes pain and blisters, but if not corrected, can lead to loss of toenails. Now, let's talk about hiking for a bit. When you're out there on the trail, your feet are going to naturally swell because of all the strain they're under. And that's particularly true if you're new to this hobby. And this swelling is made more unpleasant if your shoes are too tight. Also, let's not forget about the width of your shoes. You'll really want to make sure your toes aren't squished together to avoid issues again like blistering and pain. Having the ability to wiggle your toes is an absolute must. And hiking footwear is expensive. It would totally stink to have to shell out another $120+ for a new pair of shoes just because the original pair didn't fit. And finally, most hiking socks are thicker than your normal everyday socks. So if you do intend to hike in those thicker socks, you need to account for that too. Remember, if your feet fail, your hike is over. Choose the right size shoe and give your feet the room they need to be happy and healthy. Common hiking gear mistake number 2, not maintaining your rain gear. When was the last time you checked your rain gear? Is it still beating water and performing like it did when you first bought it? It's not really a question we often ask ourselves, but it's one that can make a world of a difference when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, miles away from civilization. Understanding and maintaining your rain gear is crucial when hiking. Most people don't realize that rain gear has an outer layer that isn't inherently waterproof. Instead, it relies on a waterproof coating to resist and bead water. Now, imagine you're stuck in a heavy rain, miles in the backcountry. Your trusty rain jacket, which you've had for a couple of years, seems to be soaking up water instead of repelling it. This is because the waterproof coating has worn away. Without that coating, your rain gear won't bead water, but will instead absorb it, a condition known as wetting out. And wetting out is both uncomfortable and dangerous. While wetting out might give the impression of water penetration into the jacket, that's not necessarily the case. The waterproof liner is still usually doing its job in keeping the rain out. With that in mind, you might think, then so what? Well, when rain gear wets out, it loses all of its breathability because it starts to stick to your skin. So the real danger isn't water or rain getting in, it's actually the moisture not being able to get out. When you're hiking, you're obviously exerting yourself, generating heat, perspiration, and moisture. That rain gear has wetted out and lost all of its ability to breathe. That moisture you're generating has nowhere to go, leaving you damp, clammy, and potentially at risk of hypothermia. So what can you do to avoid all this? Well, there are products on the market like Nick Wax that you can use to wash your rain gear with to replenish that waterproof coating. It's such a simple fix, but not doing it could be potentially disastrous or at least very uncomfortable for you. And remember to pace yourself to avoid excessive sweating and ensure your rain gear is up to the task of protecting you from the elements. Exposure to elements is a killer in the backcountry, and it doesn't discriminate between people, seasons, or conditions. Common mistake number 3 is not subscribing to the channel, dude. Come on, man. I just need 1 subscriber. That's all I need. It's not a big deal. Just 1. Just 1 subscriber. I don't have a problem. Come on, man. You have a problem. Anyways, common hiking gear mistake number 3 is not using your hip belt properly. Are you using your backpack's hip belt? Are you using your backpack's hip belt correctly? Nailed it. Misuse can lead to fatigue, strain, poor balance, and even injury. How you wear your hip belt could make the difference between a joyful journey and a painful trek. Hip belts play a significant role in weight distribution. The purpose is to transfer the weight from the backpack off of your shoulders and back and onto your hips. This load shift allows your stronger leg muscles to take the majority of the weight, reducing fatigue and increasing stability. It also makes your pack feel much lighter when it's properly placed. So, where should your hip belt be placed on your body, and how do you wear it? The sweet spot for your hip belt is on the upper part of your hip bone, known as the iliac crest. I think I'm saying that right. Didn't Google it. I mean, it auto-corrected thing. We need to cut this. You want the middle of the hip belt to hit that spot, and then tighten your hip belt so it securely grabs onto your hips and doesn't slide down your body. Wearing your hip belt too low, too high, or not tight enough is a common mistake that can lead to discomfort, fatigue, and instability. And a quick check to make sure you have the positioning right. Fully loosen your shoulder straps once you've secured your hip belt. If your pack is lifted off your shoulders, you've hit the sweet spot and the weight is distributed correctly. But just be aware that positioning the belt too high can also cause this, so play around with the positioning. Remember, the purpose of a hip belt is to distribute the weight in a specific manner, resulting in an easier and more pleasurable hike. Make sure you're using it correctly and your body will thank you. Common hiking gear mistake number 4 is not inspecting your gear before you leave. Realizing your gear isn't working mid-adventure can really disrupt your hike. To reduce this risk, it's important to ensure that your more fragile backpacking items are in still working condition. Begin with gear such as your stove, sleeping mat, water filter, waterproof layers, and all of your electronics. A malfunctioning stove, for example, can jeopardize meal preparation, impacting your energy levels and your overall well-being while on the trail. You'll also want to verify that you're not forgetting any important gear. For those of us that rely on kits and bags for organization, a careful examination is very important. Often, small items such as repair kits, first aid essentials, extra batteries, medicines, lighters can all be used or go missing. These overlooked items may be your saving grace on trail. So play it safe and make sure you go through all of your bags and all of your kits and that you verify everything's there. The consequences of forgetting essential gear or having gear malfunction while you're on the trail can range from merely inconvenient to just utterly disastrous. But it's also a really proactive measure because it gives you that peace of mind that once you're out there, you know you did your due diligence and you're all set and ready to go. Subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the backcountry.